now I recognize Ms. Trahan for her 5 minutes of questioning.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you to our expert witnesses for taking the time to be here today. As many of my colleagues have already said, this committee has a long-standing history of working to ensure that the automotive industry prioritizes the safety of families who ride in their cars. And it's my hope that we can once again find bipartisan consensus to ensure that that legacy continues, particularly when it comes to the issues of autonomous vehicles. Like millions of families across our country, I'm excited by the promise of AVs, and I share in the belief that we need to do everything in our power to make sure they're deployed safely. And I'm grateful to my colleagues who have rightly pointed out the many concerns, safety concerns with AVs. And instead of repeating much of what's already been said, I'd like to talk about the impact of AVs on the more than 4 million Americans who rely on the driving profession. Just as ATMs reduced the need for bank tellers and self-checkout lanes, displaced many cashiers, I'm concerned that AVs, once deployed at high volumes, are destined to displace Americans employed as drivers. And while our committee only covers the personal vehicle portion, AVs have the potential to cause even greater effects to commercial and public transportation sectors, potentially displacing bus and truck drivers and delivery workers as well. Dr. Coatman, both of these bills would set the rules of the road for decades to come and set precedents that other committees and policymakers will follow. Shouldn't Congress consider workforce protections while drafting legislation that could have such a lasting effect?
Yes, absolutely. This technology can affect the workforce just like any other technological innovation. But it's also important to ensure the safety of the workers who are in the vehicles being driven by this technology as well.
Thank you. And as exciting as the promise of AVs are in our changing economy, we can't afford to write off those who could be displaced by the rapid deployment of AVs as the cost of this technological advancement. Dr. Coatman, are there opportunities for Americans who are gainfully employed in the driving profession to transition to some high-quality jobs that may become available as AVs are more broadly deployed?
Yes, I think there are. I think it's important to recognize that this is not you wake up the next morning and all of a sudden all the truckers are out of job. That's not going to happen, and I see other witnesses nodding along. It's not going to happen. This is going to take years to play out. That doesn't mean, as was mentioned earlier, this is a 20, 30-year perspective. I get that eventually we'll get there, but it's not an overnight thing. So the aging out of the current workforce also factors in. But the big thing here is, yes, the jobs will be changed, and it's going to be important to make sure those workers land on their feet with other jobs, such as I mentioned before, in the back room, helping intervene when there's a problem on the road, making sure that the safety's there, more highly trained technicians, because now if the LiDAR doesn't work, somebody could die. You better make sure that LiDAR works. Yes, there's redundancy and so on, but this starts looking more like aircraft maintenance than vehicle maintenance.
Thank you, Dr. Coatman. Mr. Chairman, on that point, I'd like to request unanimous consent to submit for the record several letters from the Transit Workers Union calling on Congress to include workforce protections in AV legislation.
Without objection, so ordered.
Thank you. And to my colleague, Congresswoman Dingell, I commend you for working to ensure that unions and workers have a voice in your bill. While I still have a little bit more time, which never happens, state and local governments are largely writing the rules for the road for AV testing on their public streets. Dr. Coatman, again, should state and local governments be permitted to continue to play this role? And would you be concerned about a federal AV framework preempting state and local traffic related to AV testing?
I think that's a great question. I think there's two phases. The first phase is while we're waiting for the federal regulations to actually come into effect, the states need to be able to manage what's going on the roads to protect their constituents. The second part is when that transition does happen, the way I envision it is the federal government still controls equipment as they do, but that should not prevent the ability of the states to control their own locally necessary rules of the road. So the federal government should make sure that the vehicles are able to follow whatever the local road rules are, and the states and localities should be able to set the local road rules responsive to local conditions. So, for example, in Pittsburgh, there's a school for disabled, and the city of Pittsburgh might not want testing to happen at their front doorstep. They should be allowed, if they so desire, to say, no, you can't test on that block.
Great. Thank you. I yield back.
Thank you very much.